Hey YouTube family, it's Dinko the Realtor, your Utah Realtor. Home prices in the Utah housing market continue falling down. They continue just dropping. And I'm going to show you what's going on here. I have the data and we're going to go over that. I also first want to show you some articles and then also some other data that's showing you that the housing market has not stabilized. So let me pull that up here because it's going to help you understand what's going on. And I'm going to give you kind of projections, what we can anticipate here in 2024. So mortgage applications drop 9.4% as year-end holiday effects linger. So applications are dropping 9.4%. And if we take a look at this and analyze this part of the article, with overall level of purchase activity down 12% lower than a year ago. So we have people applying for mortgages at a 12% lesser rate than we did a year ago. And that's when the market was slow as well, right? So first I want to show y'all what's going on over here. Let me just pull this up. So if we take a look at the sold data, we see that the solds are down heavily, right? At the beginning of 2022, we see that we had 4,000, right? This is where the market peaked here in May. Let me just add this here so I can start highlighting some stuff. There we go. So it peaked in May, and we see that we are negative 19, 26, 11, negative 20%. Then we finally went up, and there was articles about this. And then when, all of a sudden, month over month, we've been dropping again into the negatives with sales. There, we didn't really hear too much of that. And then if we take a look at comparing it of 2021 and into 2019, we see that we are 35 to 45% less in sales. So if we are less in sales by 35 to 45% when we compare it to 2021 or to 2019, the last pre-pandemic year, we see the sales are severely down. And then we see here that mortgage applications are down 12% than, 12% lower than they were a year ago. So that is indicating that the housing market has not stabilized. We have less sales than we did a year ago, way less sales than we did in 2021 and the last pre-pandemic year of 2019. We have less houses under contract. So I want to show you all this here as well. Let me pull this up. And this is going to help you understand what's going on. And let me see, I'm blocking some stuff. So let me just get myself out of that and let me just zoom in a little. There we go. So if we take a look at the actives, we see that the actives are almost identical. 7,817 in January of 2023, 7,680 in January of 2024. We see that the under contracts are still lower than they were a year ago. So 3,657 under contract at the beginning of 2023, only 3,056 under contract in January of 2024. And if we compare this to 2021 and 2022, I mean, we had 6,000, 7,000 under contract, and we don't have that now. So none of that is indicating the under contracts are not higher than they were a year ago. Mortgage applications are not higher than they were a year ago. So none of that's indicating that the housing market is pivoting fully and that prices are just going to start continuing up, that the housing market has stabilized. So what's going on with home prices? And let me pull that up right here. Just one second. There we go. So if we take a look at prices, this over here is 2022 on the left-hand side, right-hand side is 2023. So May right here is when the market peaked at $600,000 for the median price. Then we saw it drop all the way down to $510,000. So it was dropping every single month from May all the way until January of 2023. So from May of 2022. Then we see that the market peaked in June of 2023, and it kind of just lingered there for about another month, and then prices dropped, then prices went up a tad bit, and then now prices dropped again, and we see that we're starting to resemble where we were a year ago. And we'll see when the January data comes out here in the next 30 days where we're at. But we see that the difference right here is only $10,000 in December of 2023 versus December of 2022. And I went over this in previous videos. There are less entry-level single-family homes being sold. There's less of them on the market and less of them being sold because there's less of them on the market. So that is not part of the statistical data. And if it was, then we would see this resembling where we were at a year ago. and maybe even lower. So the fact that mortgage applications are lower, under contracts are lower, and let's say we don't see a recession here at the beginning of the year, unemployment doesn't go up, and let's say interest rates do continue falling and they drop, which I'm going to show an article over that as well, where that might not actually be the case, where they were anticipating rates just to continue dropping here into the beginning of 2024, and they actually pivoted, they actually went up. So I'm going to show you that as well. And if we do see, let's say, interest rates come down, we see unemployment rates stay low, we might potentially see that small uptick in the spring, but it's not saying that things have stabilized. It's not saying the prices are not going to come down again like they have here in the last 2 years in the, towards the end of summer into the fall and into the holiday season. Now, when unemployment rate starts going up, when the recession does hit, we're not going to see that uptick. That uptick is not going to happen. And it all depends, how bad is the recession going to be? What I'll actually do is I'll release a video with a full forecast of what could potentially happen. So I'm going to show all the different things that are going on, where this housing market could potentially head if, certain things happen in the economy. So I'll make sure to make that video here. But I want to show y'all this right here. So the national debt, we are almost at $34 trillion at the national debt. And this right here, the amount of money printing. So like I said, this is why I can't say that we're going to have a full out housing correction, because we look at this chart right here, and we see the amount of money that we've been printing since we went away from the gold standard in 1970. And home prices have been mimicking this, right? The more money they're printing, the more expensive the houses have become. And we saw the Great Recession. So it doesn't mean that we're immune to what's going on. And we have been downgraded. The US government has been downgraded. The credit score took a hit, meaning it's going to be more expensive to finance this debt for the US government. So all of that might mean that this printing of money is not going to be able to run at this obnoxious amount, and who knows, maybe they kind of restrain that. So that's what I'm going to kind of go over in that next video of what we potentially could be facing. And really, I can make that video 30 minutes, 60 minutes long, but I'll try to kind of condense it in a 15-20 minute video, maybe even 15 minutes, so you can kind of get that information there. But if we take a look at this, right, nothing is indicating that things have stabilized. And if we take a look at listings, so I went over this in previous videos, and I'm going to just give this as a little recap. So let me just remove myself. So right here, this is what prevented the housing market from absolutely going into a free fall and into the major housing correction actually happening. So I'm going to go over that. So if we take a look at the beginning of the year, look at the amount of less. So all of these are negative listings, less, right, per month, year over year. So in February, we had 584 less listings. And if we go to June, we had 1,800 less listings hit the housing market. We take a look at this, and we were negative 15 all the way to 27, and even at one point 30% when we were comparing the listings. So there was less listings hitting the housing market. We just started a year with so much more inventory, but the listings were not hitting the market like they were in 2022. They were not hitting the market like they were in 2019 pre-pandemic. So right now we have the least amount of listings hitting the market than we've had for quite some time, since this population boom, since the market started booming in 2012 here in Utah. We're seeing these listings. However, look at this right here. All of a sudden, we have listings in the positives for 2 straight months. It's not huge, and this 11% isn't as big as it looks because it's 256. But nonetheless, November and December is showing that we are actually getting more listings hitting the market than we did a year ago. So the trend could potentially be changing, where we were negative. So if this actually resembles what's going to come here in 2023 at the beginning of the year and into the spring, maybe we are not going to see these negative 1,200, negative 1,600, negative 1,800. And if we see the same listings that we saw in 2022 or in 2019 hitting the housing market, we are going to have much more inventory in the spring, much more inventory in the summer. And that is not going to indicate that prices are going to continue going up. That's not going to indicate that the housing market has stabilized. It's actually going to do quite the opposite. So it just depends what's going on. I'm always following the data. And if, like I said, if we see that small uptick, nothing is indicating that that small uptick is not going to see another fall, just like we saw in 2022 in the second half and in 2023 in the second half. So even if we see that uptick, we most likely, until the data shows otherwise, are going to see a drop again in the second half of 2024. So these are the things that we have to kind of pay attention to. And we see prices dropping. We see that the economy hasn't stabilized. We see that the housing market hasn't stabilized. So if you want to take advantage of the housing market, I've been doing that for people, been negotiating deals, been negotiating better deals out there than you're going to get from other people on, negotiating on your behalf. I service the whole greater Salt Lake area, the whole Wasatch Front. I even have somebody that I'm helping in Park City, all the way up to Ogden, Provo, Lehigh, Salt Lake, of course, Tooele. So I'm all over the Wasatch Front, helping people make sure that they're having the financial, information to make that financial decision they feel comfortable with. So if you need to get a hold of me, my contact information is down below, and I'm going to release these videos so you're a much more informed buyer, and I'll keep releasing these as the economy, as the data points are changing.